me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty.
Over his controversial April 3, 2025 remarks that Captain Ibrahim Traoré has been using the country's gold to protect himself.
Imagine a situation, though, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that in order to the benefit of the strongman leader and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traoré and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
Close to 3 weeks after the president of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, demanding for an apology from Marine Corps General Michael Langley, while being hosted in an interview by Russia's Sputnik Afrique on May 10, 2025, on the sidelines of the 2025 Victory Day commemorations in Moscow.
I don't know what happened with that general. There is still an issue, and I would perhaps like him to admit his mistake if he was sent, and to understand that this was not the right mission. If he was misled, he should say so publicly, or otherwise admit before the Senate that he was mistaken. Or also, if it was done with bad intentions, well, we will confront him as we should, because everything he said is a lie. And it's really shameful to see an adult lie, to see an adult, a general officer of a great army lie. It's very serious. First, he talked about Burkina's gold being used for what? For us to protect ourselves and all that. First of all, it's Burkina's gold, it's not his gold. Second, he's lying, because Burkina never had any gold reserves until we came. We are the ones who started setting aside gold in the treasury of Burkina Faso. Otherwise, there wasn't a single gram of gold reserves in Burkina. And the part that hurt me the most, not because he's a general or because he's American or anything like that, but because he's black. And it really hurts, Ruku, to see a black person being used to fight against another black person. And this didn't just start now. It needs to stop.
Close to 3 weeks after the president of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, demanding for an apology from Marine Corps General Michael Langley, the U.S. Africa Command Director has refused to apologize and even made much more controversial remarks about the current situation in Burkina Faso and Captain Ibrahim Traoré's leadership. Marine Corps General Langley, who was speaking from Kenya while being hosted in an interview on Citizen TV Kenya on the night of April 27, 2025, affirmed his stand that the situation in Burkina Faso does not look good under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and that the future of the country might be at risk. He at first agreed with Captain Ibrahim Traoré that Burkina Faso is a sovereign country that has all the rights to do whatever it wants with its resources, and that it is free to partner with whoever it wants on matters to do with military support and security, but alleged that Burkina Faso is currently the epicenter of global terrorism. That he also wanted to illuminate that Burkina Faso is going in the wrong direction now, with ISIS getting stronger, Jnim getting stronger, Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb getting stronger, and that all of them have been getting stronger after Captain Ibrahim Traoré taking over in 2022.
In 2007, the global percentage of terrorism on the African continent was 2%. 2024, it's like 43%.
General, let's talk about countries taking on their own autonomy. You are on African soil, not for the first time, but this would be a good moment to ask about one of the countries that has taken its own autonomy, and that's Burkina Faso. Your remarks recently at the Senate seem to suggest that he's diverting, General Traoré, is diverting its 4 billion gold reserves to sustain his military rule rather than for public welfare. These remarks sparked widespread, condemnation across the continent. What did you mean by that statement?
Let me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make the decisions how they use their resources. They make the decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism.
Wait. What the?
Knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism, it was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point, and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that country, period. They make their decisions though. That's their sovereignty, their sovereign right to make their decisions, what is appropriate, what's not. But I wanted to illuminate that it's going in the wrong direction now. ISIS is getting stronger. JNIM is getting stronger. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Maghreb is getting stronger in that country.
And do you think it's getting stronger after General Traoré took over?
It has. Just look at the numbers of attacks. It really has, since 2022. I've been tracking this since I took command. So, because of these violent extremist organizations are seeking revenue, they're seeking resources, they're seeking recruiting from the Burkinabe people, and they're seeking refuge within their country. That threatens their sovereignty.
And that threatens America's interest?
Say again?
Does that then threaten America's interests?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Because especially ISIS, and of course in East Africa is inextricably linked all the way to ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel. And there's going to be probably a move afoot for them to move and seek refuge within the line. So we have shared objectives, and we offer to work together with the Burkinabe government and border countries. Mali, Niger, coastal West Africa countries, collective, because here's what these organizations do. Here's what these terrorist organizations do. They seek refuge in the seams or the borders of these countries and lets them thrive and grow and lets them recruit, gain resources to carry on their illicit and nefarious activities against the populations of those people.
And what would America, perhaps AFRICOM, be prepared to do? Would you be considering an ouster like we saw with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Because there's still many Africans who are yet to recover from that. If this is a bigger threat, as you say, in Burkina Faso, what is AFRICOM prepared to do about it?
We do indications and warnings. There's a number of activities that we do, and I will just go ahead and mention building institutional capacity. There's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground. Very, very small for exchange of ideas and training, exercises. Over time, that builds institutional capacity and capability in these armies. There, AFRICOM, we're working towards a burden sharing and a burden shift for their independent operations. That's our goal. We have the shared objectives because these same terrorist groups can threaten our homeland.
Speaking of that, because the reaction out of the statements that you made about Burkina Faso were several African leaders feeling you are speaking on sovereignty issues that America shouldn't be. And as a result, there are those who see the role of Africa as less of a partner in, the war against, shared threats, as you mentioned, and more of a protector of Western or American economic interests that allows access to Africa's vast mineral resources, and as more of a paternalistic relationship than one of respect amongst peers. What would you respond to that?
I respond that there's others on the globe that do that. There's others on the globe that
Like
do
who?
that. I won't even bring it up. We should even already know, okay? But I won't even bring that up.
Okay.
We respect their sovereignty. We respect their decisions. We respect their decisions of who they choose as a security partner. And then we measure the common denominator that's keeping these countries across the Sahel from progressing forward. You know, in 2050, you know, the largest workforce on the globe is going to come out of the continent of Africa. The youth need hope. They need peace and stability so they can hit their potentials.
So you're not concerned about China and Russia expanding their military and economic influence across the continent?
We are concerned about it, yes.
What about it concerns you?
Well, you know, their influence. Their influence may not be looked upon as being a positive influence.
For who? For America or for Africa?
Well, for Africans, okay? And then, so Americans have that have that in mind, that for the African people and across all countries, be able to hit their maximum potential and independence and sovereignty and also freedoms by rules-based international order.
Now, after Africans rose in unison to defend their son, Traoré, Langley's feeble attempt to spin his narrative as a military perspective reeks of desperation. This is not just a story about one general's backpedaling, it's a glaring expose of the West's age-old playbook of destabilizing Africa to maintain its chokehold on the continent's resources and sovereignty. But Langley's original accusation was not a neutral military perspective, but a deliberate smear designed to paint Traoré as a corrupt dictator to justify Western intervention. Now, faced with a continent-wide backlash, he pivots to platitudes about sovereignty while doubling down on his claim that Burkina Faso's military is its weakest link in the fight against terrorism. Langley's attempt to reframe his narrative is a classic Western tactic. Vilify first, then backtrack with feigned respect when the target proves resilient. His insistence that Burkina Faso is the epicenter of global terrorism is a convenient pretext, echoing the same tidy justifications used to invade Iraq in 2003 or destabilize Libya in 2011. The US claims to be a partner in counter-terrorism, yet AFRICOM's presence in the Sahel has coincided with a surge in jihadist violence since 2015. Langley's accusations and subsequent backtrack are not isolated incidents but part of a well-worn Western playbook to maintain dominance over Africa. Step 1. Demonize any African leader who dares to prioritize national interests over Western demands. Step 2. Amplify these accusations through media propaganda to justify sanctions, covert operations, or military intervention. Step 3. Install pliable puppets to ensure resources flow back to Western capitals. We've seen this script play out time and again. Patrice Lumumba in Congo, Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso, Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Each was branded a threat for daring to dream of African sovereignty, only to be toppled by Western machinations. Traoré's crime is clear. He's refusing to play by the West's rules. Since seizing power in a 2022 coup, he has expelled French troops, nationalized gold mines like Essakane, and banned raw gold exports to ensure local processing. He's built Burkina Faso's first gold refinery, renegotiated mining contracts to favor local participation, and invested in agriculture and cotton processing to reduce reliance on raw material exports. These are not the actions of a self-serving dictator, but a revolutionary leader committed to economic sovereignty. Yet, the West, through Langley, paints him as a villain, accusing him of hoarding gold for personal gain, a baseless claim unsupported by any public evidence. The timing of Langley's remarks raises suspicions. Just days after his Senate testimony, Burkina Faso's Security Minister Mahamadou Sana revealed that security forces had foiled a major plot to assassinate Traoré, allegedly orchestrated from neighboring Ivory Coast. a known haven for Western-backed exiles like Blaise Compaoré, who assassinated Sankara in 1987. Langley's visit to Ivory Coast for AFRICOM's Operation Flintlock, hosted by President Alassane Ouattara, a staunch US and French ally, only fuels speculation of coordinated efforts to destabilize Traoré's regime. As one protester in London put it, "This is regime change by any means.